In this video, we're going to take a look at the chart action for the main coins that I'm invested in, which are Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polkadot, and Cardano. Some of these charts look a little bearish, but it mostly looks like we're testing the uptrend. Let's go ahead and jump into the video right now. Here's what I'm looking at on the total crypto market cap. Alright, so here's what I have. Let's go ahead and delete that and we can start from scratch. Alright, so we have resistance right here, resistance right here, resistance right here. We have support right here, and we have support right here. We have this top trend, maybe something like this, and then we have a bottom trend right here. It looks like we just came into contact with this top trend line, and it looks like we got a little bit of resistance. I'm wondering if we're going to get a pullback down, or if we're just kind of going to go sideways, or maybe downward sideways until we kind of hit this bottom support line. In general, I'm thinking this bottom support line we might get a bounce on it. The other thing I'm looking at is we have support right here, and support right here. Let's do a bottom trend line going like this. I'm thinking if we break this bottom trend line going to the downside, we're going to be looking at previous support levels. Right here is sitting at 2.48, and right here is sitting at 2.32. The other thing we could do is do a Fibonacci retracement from the bottom to the top of this trend. And if we break this trend line going to the downside, then we might be looking at this level, or possibly this level. This one and this one kind of line up together, and this one line up together pretty decently. Alright, so in general, what I'm looking at is this uptrend right here. This is the main thing I'm watching. If we break that to the downside, then I'm looking at these levels right here, the Fibonacci levels. 38% level is 2.56 trillion, the 50% level is 2.41 trillion, and the 61% level is 2.28 trillion. So basically, if we break this trend line going to the downside, these are the levels that we might be able to get bounces on, possibly. We still haven't broke this to the downside yet, so we don't know for sure if this is going to play out, but it could possibly keep crawling up and break to the upside still, but this is basically what I'm watching on the total crypto market cap, just in case. Let's jump over the Bitcoin chart. Okay, so here's what I was looking at in my last video. I'm zoomed out on the weekly time frame, and we have this previous top right here and the previous top right here. I had a trend line going to the upside, and I was basically saying in my last video that we're going to have to watch this for either resistance or a breakout. And it looks like we're getting some resistance right now. But we are still in this pattern. We have support right here and support right here. We have an uptrend going like this. Let's jump into the daily time frame and see what else we can see. Let's go ahead and delete everything. Okay, so here's what I'm looking at. We have resistance right here, and we have support right here. Let's do a top trend and a bottom trend. For now, it does look like this level is holding support, but I think if we break this to the downside, we could target from the top to the bottom right here. Target something like this. This could be a possible double top, something like that. And if we break this bottom support line to the downside, we could drag this to the breakout, possibly something like this, and we could be looking at a target of around 50,615, depending on where we break out. That's if we break to the downside though. If we zoom out a little bit, we have support right here and support right here. Let's draw a trend line going to the upside like this. I think if we break this, then we could look for possible support right here as well, which kind of lines up with the target. Lines up something like that. So if we do get a breakout to the downside, it will look something like this. Maybe we could find support in this area right here. In general though, when we zoom out, you can see that we have a resistance zone right here. We have a resistance zone right here, and we have a resistance zone right here. Right now, the price does look like it's above this area over here. So I'm curious if we're going to be able to kind of get support over here and maybe hold that support until we can get a bounce to the upside. Main thing I'm watching is this trend line right here. I'm curious if we're going to hold support and get a bounce, or if we're going to come test it and get a breakout to the downside. Here's what I'm looking at on the Ethereum chart. Okay, so we have kind of like a channel pattern going like this. We have a resistance line and support line, and we've been bouncing in between those two. Right now, it looks like we're testing the bottom support line, and we're kind of trending to the downside. What I would do is if we break this trend line going to the downside, I'll look for previous support levels, something like that. This one's sitting at around 3,916. This one's sitting at around 3,410. We could also do a Fibonacci retracement from the bottom to the top, something like that, and maybe look for the 38% level, or I'd be looking at the 38% level and the 50% level, sitting around 4,600, sitting at 4,069 or 3,824. We still haven't broken out of this channel pattern going to the downside yet, so it's still possible that we keep crawling going up. What I am watching though is we have resistance right here and resistance right here. Let's do a little trend line like that. If we break this trend line going to the upside, then maybe that'll be a signal that we're heading back up. Like I said, we're still holding support on this channel pattern, so the main thing that I'm watching is this bottom support line. If we break that to the downside, I'll be looking at support levels. I think the levels that we could possibly be watching is around 4,000 or maybe 3,800. Hopefully we continue moving up, but it does look like we're testing that downside right now. Let's see what happens. If we jump over the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, here's what I'm looking at. We have resistance right here, support right here, and support right here. We're pretty much going sideways in like a triangle pattern. So I'm curious if we're going to get a breakout to the upside or to the downside. If we break to the upside, that'll be good for Ethereum. If we break to the downside, that'll be good for Bitcoin. Let's jump over the Cardano chart. Okay, so here's what I'm looking at with Cardano. In my last video, we were looking at these support and resistance zones, these purple boxes pretty much, and I was saying if we could jump into this purple box, then maybe we could trade in here and jump into the next one, but it looks like we hit that top and got rejected and came back down. Now we're trading in that bottom purple box. So let's delete everything and let me show you what I'm really looking at, or the main thing that I'm looking at. We have support right here, and support right here. Let's do a bottom trend line going like something like this. What I'm thinking is if we break this trend line going to the downside, that's not going to be so good. We might be having to look at previous support levels, and the one level that really did good back in this area over here was around 105. We have this level right here. Let's do a trend line, something like this. The price came down a bunch of times when we were in this area over here. This is sitting at 105 approximately. So kind of how I was looking at these zones over here, kind of looks like we have a zone right here and another zone right here. Basically, if we break this trend line going to the downside, I'm curious if we're going to start trading in this zone over here. Like I said, the bottom over here is around 105, maybe a limit order here just in case it did spike down real quick. Cardano has had some pretty crazy spikes in the past. We got a crazy spike right here, and then we got a crazy spike wick down right there, and a bunch of limit orders got filled and it just went straight back up. So it's possible it comes down and then just goes straight back up, but in general, I think if we break this line right here, I'll be looking at this level right here. In general, it does look like we're kind of trending down. We have resistance right here, resistance right here. Let's do a downtrend, something like this. I think if we could break this downtrend going to the upside, then that will be the bullish signal that we might be reversing. It looks like we're in this spot right now where we're going to have to choose whether we go up or we go down. Let's see what happens and let me know what you guys think. Okay, let's take a look at the technical analysis for Polkadot. Okay, so here's what I've been looking at on my chart. We had a target of around $63. We had a rising wedge, and we did have a breakout, but it looks like we got rejected right here and we're coming back down, or it might have been like kind of like a fake out. What I'm going to do is go ahead and readjust some of these trend lines and get rid of some. Okay, so I adjusted the trend lines. We have resistance right here, support right here, and support right here. It does look like we are still in sort of like a channel pattern. We didn't come up right here perfect, but it does still look like we have a resistance and a bottom support line. Let's see if we could continue moving in this channel, or when we come back down, maybe we could use this level right here or this trend line to get support, and maybe we could start heading back up. I think the main thing that I'll be watching is this support level right here. This is sitting around $40.51. If we come back down, maybe the next support level would be down here at around 26.66. I wouldn't really want to break this trend line going to the downside to hit this support, but this might be a possible limit order that it kind of comes down, wicks down, and then it kind of pops back up if we continue heading to the downside. It does look like we have some resistance spots. We have resistance right here, and resistance right here. Let's do the first trend line going down like this, and then we could do that second one, maybe something like that. I think if we could break these trend lines going to the upside, they might be signals that we might be reversing this bearish trend. Until we break this downtrend going to the upside, I'm going to assume that we're kind of heading towards this level at around $40.40, somewhere around there. So yeah, those are the four main coins that I like to invest in, and the main ones that I kind of watch. They're also the main ones that I would be willing to put on my Ledger Nano X. And speaking of Ledger Nano X, you guys should probably get one if you don't have one. I think this is good for if you want to like be your own bank and protect your crypto, because you never know if something's going to happen to Coinbase, or I don't know, your account gets locked or something like that within Coinbase or some of these other platforms. In the past, exchanges have got hacked, and if you don't have your keys, then it's not really your Bitcoin, and that's pretty much what you have with this. Your keys are stored on this, and it has a password protected. The Ledger Nano X, you could actually put a bunch of different crypto on there. The Ledger Nano S, I have one of those. I have my Bitcoin and Ethereum on there, but it doesn't hold a lot more coins. So if you wanted to put some of the altcoins, I would suggest do a Ledger Nano X, and it has a lot more memory, so you can put more apps like the, I don't know, whatever, Cardano. I have Cardano and Polkadot on a Ledger Nano X, and then I have like my Bitcoin and Ethereum on a Ledger Nano S, which is the cheaper one. But I would probably, now knowing what I know now, go with the Nano S. Like I said, you want to protect your crypto, and this is one way to do that. I actually have 3 of these. I have 2 Nano X's and a Ledger Nano S. If you guys want to support the channel, you guys should check out the link below and go buy one of these. I think it's a good investment. All right, if you guys like this video, hit that thumbs up button.